Okay, we're going to begin. This is the September 8th Brentwood Municipal Budget Committee meeting. Right now, Gabby and Kat are not present, but I'm sure they'll be here. I have not had any notice from anyone, so we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. First on the agenda is review and approval of meeting minutes. The first is the August 18th, 2025 regular session that we had. I'll need a motion and a second to accept those minutes, or if anybody has any changes they'd like to make, we can let Michelle know.
Motion.
So we have a motion and a second. Oop. Yeah, thanks.
Second.
A motion and a second to accept the August 18th, 2025 regular session meeting minutes as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We have one abstain. Everyone else? Two abstain. And no. 0 no's. Next is the August 21st, 2025 site walk with the Highway Department. I'll need a motion and a second to accept those.
Motion.
So we have a motion and a second to accept the August 21st, 2025 site walk with the Highway Department. All in favor?
Aye.
I abstain.
Yep.
I
So, we
have
have,
to abstain too.
so there'll be 3 ayes. Is that okay? That works. Thank you. And then the last is the September 4th, 2025 site walk with the Police Department that we just held last Thursday. I'll need a motion and a second on that, please.
I'll motion.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. It's a September 4th, 2025 site walk with the Police Department. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One abstain. Anyone opposed? No. Okay. Next is updates from the Select Board. Letty?
Yeah. Pull this up.
Dan to go first.
No, I'm just trying to. So the last time we had a proper meeting was August 18th.
Yes.
That-
Yeah.
Since that time, the town administrator resigned. We also had the new finance director start, Julie. She's there. I think that's it. I mean, there's probably many other things, but those are the budgetary things that I think.
I mean, one thing is you did request from the department heads, their initial requests due on 9/15, I believe, right?
Yes, that was what the board had decided. I don't know what the status of those is because I don't know where they're going. I'm guessing, are they going to you? Okay.
Okay.
They're going to Julie.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay, thank you. Dan, school board update?
Yeah, I'm actually headed in like 30 minutes to our first school board meeting of the new academic year. Just to round out 2025, we submitted our financials to the Department of Education. So the final report, the unassigned fund balance came out to be north of what we were projecting because we did some, finance did some PO closeouts and some end of year salary adjustments for some employees who are on leave and such. And so it actually came out to 249,000 and some change, which is higher than we were projecting before for those reasons. So good news, and that's submitted to DOE. I'll send the specifics to you all as well because I don't think I emailed that across, but
Okay.
I can send the report so that the budget committee has a copy of that. And then I'll get an update on the solar rebate from finance tonight. The ball's in the IRS's court, last I checked, but I'll get an update from our finance director in the meeting tonight.
Okay, thank you, Dan. And I know you said you have to leave early because you have that school board meeting, so totally
Yeah, 6
fine.
o'clock, but right
Yep.
next door, so I'll just bounce in.
Right. Thank you. Next on the agenda would be budgets to review. Again, we don't have any budgets at this time. Under old business, we do have a site walk that was scheduled for, it would have been the department and organizations that are headed up by the town administrator that was supposed to have been held before, well, after, whatever, she resigned. So we don't have that. We canceled that. And I'm working with Julie to reschedule that when we're ready for that. And I also I saw Dexter Swayze because part of that site walk, once we finished going over the discussions with the town administrator, we were going to have a site walk of the Grange building. And Dexter wanted to show us, I guess you had done this last year, and he wants to show us again this year some of the areas where they possibly need some improvements and things that he's planned, that the town may need to address in that building. And I did see him this weekend and told him that once I hear from Julie, I'll let him know when that'll be. And if it starts to get, pushed out, we can also just schedule a site walk with him as well. And he wasn't in any rush to do it. So as long as we get it in before the budgets are being discussed on general building, I'm sure he'll be fine.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, could we do the Grange separately? Because I feel like last year it wasn't necessarily like, I mean, it's a full building and stuff, and it might be nice to do that walk when we can actually walk along the outside, because the part of what we had gone over last year, and I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's been in yet, was plans for a septic, since there's no bathroom in that building, so that might be good to get that done sooner rather than later, just so that way it's still light out at like 5 or 6.
Okay.
That's my only thought.
No, that's
not trying to make more meetings, but just
No, if that's the will of the board, if you want to do that, I mean, I'll definitely talk to Dexter and just schedule. Do the rest of you have an opinion on that? You want to just have a site walk of the Grange building? And then we'll deal with all of the departments that are on that list that the town administrator was going to cover. We'll do that as a separate meeting, kind of treat them separately.
Sure.
Okay, I'll talk to Dexter. I'll schedule it and get it out to folks. The time that we were using was 4:30. Is that okay with people, or do you want me to?
yeah, I could do if it's just the one meeting for.
Yeah, it is.
Fine.
Okay, all right. I'll send out some dates, and depending on what the majority of us want, we'll set up a Grange site walk. Okay. Thank you, Kat. That's really good feedback. Thank you. I guess now we're at new and other business and correspondence. I would like to ask the board if they would mind moving B, which is the departmental budget review process, ahead of the compensation ratio, and just move that out of order, take it out of order. I think, does anybody have, can I have a motion in a second? Do I need a motion in a second on that? Okay, so we're okay with doing that? I just feel like I can cover that quickly while, especially with Dan. I don't want to run one. I want him to hear that one. And I also think it'll help with some of these other topics as well. So I'm going to start off. And for anyone watching, these presentations are posted under the meeting agenda for Budget Committee for this meeting. All three of these presentations are there. So I thought it was important to review the budget process that I'd like to, and then at the end I'll propose a budget process and we can discuss that. But the first thing I wanted to do, before I even get into the NHMA kind of Budget Committee roles and responsibilities and some of the information I got from the 2024 Basic Laws of Budgeting book from the NHMA, I kind of wanted to just speak to a topic that I feel pretty strongly about. And, Yeah, I'm not a social media person, but I do know what, things that kind of happening and are going on. And I've kind of heard a lot of talk about this. Seems like there's this need to support municipal workers versus the need to support resident taxpayers. And I just would like to say that me personally, I was elected to this committee and I took an oath to support the town of Brentwood. And so when I talk about and I say I took an oath to the town of Brentwood, well, of course, the town of Brentwood is nothing but residents who live in Brentwood and pay property taxes to this town. But it's also the employees that we hire and the materials that they require to meet the needs of our town. And, the goal is always to represent the town of Brentwood. And as a budget committee member, I think this means that we have to provide a budget that equally supports the needs of our municipal workers to provide their services, but also at the same time support a reasonable tax commitment on behalf of the resident taxpayers. And I hope that I can speak on behalf of our whole budget committee that we are here to work together to provide a unified budget that meets the town needs on behalf of everyone. And again, this is nothing new. I'd spoken a little bit about this at one of our previous meetings. I sent a joint letter to the select board, and the chairman is here this evening saying that we will work together. But again, this idea, we're not here for the workers, we're not here for the taxpayers, we're here for the town of Brentwood, which means we're here for both of them, actually. So I just wanted to make that clear before I started on this. So basically what I'm going to review is just some of the highlights from, and the website is listed at the bottom of this page. It's from NHMA. They basically summarize some of the Chapter 32 laws on the Budget Committee and the role and responsibilities of the Budget Committee. So it is the Budget Committee's operating budget that is submitted to the Department of Revenue and presented to the voters for adoption at the annual meeting. And that being said, the governing body, which is the Select Board, not the Budget Committee, has the authority to propose other appropriations, in effect, separate warrant articles containing appropriations. So again, how things may have been done in the past is how they were done in the past. I don't know. This is the law, and this is how I would like to do the budget this year. As a part of the Budget Committee's role of assisting voters in the prudent appropriation of public funds, the Budget Committee is required to put its recommendation or non-recommendation on special warrant articles, along with the Select Board's recommendation. And again, I know this has been done in the past where the Select Board puts together the warrants and the Budget Committee votes yes or no, and that would be listed, and then also the same with the Select Board, what their recommendations are to the public. The Budget Committee has the authority to review current expenditures by acquiring, and again, this is the quote from the RSA, comparative statement of all appropriations and all expenditures by them made in such detail as the Budget Committee may require. And in fact, RSA 3222 says that the Budget Committee shall meet periodically to review such statements. And the purpose of the review is to determine whether the budget is meeting the needs of the town and to assist them in putting together a budget. And we've done this. Since I've been here, the town administrator, Jillian, and going forward, I'm sure it'll be Julie, have been really good about providing us with, the year-to-date expenditure reports, the year-to-date revenue reports, and anything else that I've asked of them, they've provided us. So again, I'm just continuing. This is all right from NHMA's little summary that they have. Now, per RSA 3216, paragraph 2, the Budget Committee has not only the authority, but also the obligation to confer with the governing body, which again is the Select Board, or bodies and with other officers, department heads, and other officials relative to estimated costs, revenues anticipated, and services performed to the extent deemed necessary by the Budget Committee. The statute goes on to say that it is the duty of all such officers and other persons to furnish such pertinent information to the Budget Committee. And I want to make sure that this bullet I specifically took out of their roles and responsibilities, because I heard there's some comments or concerns about why do I have to present my information twice, once to the select board and once to the budget committee. Well, I do understand having to do things twice, but if the select board requests them to do something, that's one thing. But it clearly, the law states that it is their duty to confer with this board, the budget committee, on the departmental appropriation and eventually the budget appropriation that we will vote and approve, that the budget committee will vote and approve. Therefore, now, and again, this is right from NHMA. The basic process should work as follows. First, all officers and departments submit statements of estimated expenses and receipts to the governing body. Then, the governing body submits its own recommendation to the budget committee. Together with all information necessary for the preparation of the annual budget, including each purpose for which an appropriation is sought and each item of anticipated revenue. So this gets back to, I think, the letter that I shared with the select board. If we can work together on this, like, it'll probably be easier for the department heads, because maybe we can get away with having them just talk to the budget committee and not to the select board. Or if they share the first sheets that go to the select board with the budget committee, maybe that will help. Either way, the process does clearly state that the select board is there to work with these department heads on that first initial estimate of what the departmental requests will be, and then that gets submitted to the budget committee along with any information that we need to come up with the appropriation. And then at least one budget hearing must be held to disclose or discuss all purposes of appropriations, and purpose of appropriation includes all separate warrant articles containing appropriation in addition to the full operating budget. And again, I know that happens. It's something that the budget committee does probably in February before town meeting, but we by law have to do that. So given what NHMA kind of talks about, this is kind of how I am proposing we look at this budget for this year. And we can discuss this more if we want to. But so the first item is that the select board would request the initial departmental appropriation requests from all the department heads. And I think that's already been done, and it's due on September 15th at 4 p.m. I know I've gotten involved in a little bit with some of first of all, I'm the chair of the cemetery trustees, so I have to do the cemetery initial budget. But I've also worked with several other departments on using a template. I actually gave them the template that I'll be requesting from the departments anyways for our use on the budget committee, knowing that if they use that, well, they have it done. And I also provided them with, make sure they knew what the FICA rates were and the Medicare rates, as well as the, and FICA, Medicaid, and then New Hampshire retirement. I gave them all those percentages. And that same template had been given to the former town administrator, and I know, Letty, you have that, and Julie now has that as well. So the select board will prepare its recommendation to the budget committee together with all information necessary for the preparation of the annual budget, including each purpose for which an appropriation is sought and each item of anticipated revenue. Like I said, I've already given the template to folks who need it, and because I'm hoping that when that initial departmental request comes in, it'll be on those templates, so I can populate it into our big workbook that has, and the link page worksheets that'll summarize on a front tab for us for the entire budget. And then as a budget committee, we'll have to review these recommendations with the department heads and with the select board with the objective of creating an official operating budget for fiscal year 2026. And that would include, obviously, recommendations on all warrants. And in the area of warrants, I believe the law states that it is the select board that does warrants. I don't believe budget committee can create warrants, but
I would imagine that, I mean, if the budget committee felt strongly, they could do a citizen's petition just like anyone else.
yeah, and the only thing I was thinking is that I know that there was discussion last year about the salt, and I've been working with the highway department on their template, and I believe, and I remember and recall that there was discussion about moving salt from being an appropriation line to being a reserve fund, a CR. And
I don't think it was salt. I think it was like a storm. We already have a storm CR,
Winter maintenance.
winter maintenance.
well, there is a winter maintenance fund, but he thought that was in case something broke in the winter. There's $11,000 in it.
No.
Anyways, I guess my point would be, if we believe, and I think it's a good idea like the salt and the sand probably should be paid for out of a fund like that, because then if you have a year where you don't get a lot of snow, you can carry that money over to the next year where that is, you know what I mean? It's not, where if you have an appropriation line, if he doesn't spend the money, it lapses. All appropriations lapse unless you can encumber it, but there's very specific rules, like a purchase order has to be issued. Anyways, I think it's a good idea.
So we can encumber that one specifically. I can tell you because we just approved that purchase order just now for next year.
Well, I know there was an encumbrance this year for $35,000
Right.
for salt.
What I'm saying is that the purchase order for salt comes in the fall.
Right?
So we could always encumber it if the board wished to.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
true. That's true. I think all I was trying to get at is, if select board, budget committee have an idea of like making a CR, that would be a warrant. So we would, in an appropriation line, hypothetically put $1 for salt, and then the money for the salt for next year would be in a warrant. And I'm saying, I'm not sure, and maybe I could check with NHMA, I'm not sure that, I don't believe the budget committee is allowed to create an appropriation warrant like that.
No,
I believe that would be
select
something,
board.
like I said, we would work together with select board to say, you know, we're gonna do this right. We're gonna do a CR for salt and sand and the winter patch, you know, because it really makes sense. That's how you should do it. And you always make sure that you have enough in that fund to cover the next year. And then if you have an easy year, well, then you don't have to put as much in the next year. If you have a bad year, well, you're gonna have to probably put more. But so I like that approach, I really do. It's just that, like I said, I think we'll have to coordinate together with the select board so that when we get to the appropriation line, we don't want to put the appropriation dollars there. We want to do it, have the select board do it as a warrant, and then we would vote yes on that warrant. So, okay. And again, there might be other places too where it makes sense to do warrants instead of having an appropriation line. And I think those are some of the discussions, again, that we could have together with select board, because it would be a joint kind of activity for us to do this together, to make the appropriation and the warrant work together.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the budget committee assures that the 2026 operating budget and recommended warrants meet the needs of those providing the town services, while also being mindful of the financial impact to the taxpayer. And obviously that means complying with the 4% tax cap. And last, the budget committee would hold a public hearing, and then we would submit the official budget and all the warrants to the clerk to be submitted to New Hampshire Department of Revenue. So I can think at a high level, that's kind of how I see it working. And I mean, I know it's my first time doing this. You guys have more experience than I do. I don't know if this is different than you've done it in the past, or if this is how you've done it. Any comments or?
So I think one of the things that's different is having the budgets all at once at the beginning is different. I think last year was the first time we'd ever asked for that number. And I don't think we ever asked for it this early before. Other than that, this seems pretty much like it's always been. Obviously, the tax cap is new, but other than that, yeah.
Okay.
The select board reviews it,
Okay,
presents it to the
good.
approval.
And I think doing it early was, again, something that we jointly, Select Board and Budget Committee, felt was a good thing for this year, given that it's all of our first time working with a tax cap. We thought it was best to get an early start.
Yeah, I mean, I think last year it was requested to be earlier because um, the select board realized that it's really hard to make decisions on individual budgets if we don't know what the total is. And having to go back through a second time if you don't have to for all of them. But yeah, I think it'll be helpful this year for sure.
Any other comments or questions? And what I'd like to do is, I know we have public comments at the end, but given this proposed, I'd like to open up, if there's anybody in the audience who has a question or a concern, that way we can just address it while we're on this topic before we jump to any other topic. And then again, I'll open it up at the end for anything, but if anybody in the audience has something specific, a question, a comment, or a concern with this proposed budget process, I'd feel happy to, come forward. Anyone? Okay, great. With that, I will go back to item A, is the compensation ratio analysis. So this idea of compensation ratio analysis is not something that I came up with, honestly. Someone had shared with me that there was a committee of residents. I'm not sure the time frame, how long ago it was, but they were attempted to put together something like this that just showed the total compensation of municipal employees, but it just never really completed. So I think it's really important in terms of understanding and clearly knowing where we stand as a community and as an employer, a municipal employer, where do we stand on compensation. So I kind of went through this, and I worked, I did have help at the time. The town administrator provided me some data, as well as Health Trust was really helpful in providing me the costs for the different benefits that we offer in town. Andrew was really, really helpful. So I'll start off with a basic definition. Total compensation ratio basically compares an employee's base salary to the full cost of employment, which essentially is salary plus employer-paid benefits plus payroll taxes, etc. And the compensation ratio is equal to that total compensation divided by the total salary.
Can I just ask a clarifying question?
Sure.
Does this include if how do you calculate it if any specific employee doesn't take one or some of these?
So so this is not going to show for every individual in town what the compensation ratio is for that person. But what I did is I ran 9 different scenarios, and I'll get to that, Lindy.
Okay.
It's a really good question because you're absolutely right. It varies. Yes, correct. And maybe when I go through these benefits, some of that will even start to play out and why it's a little bit complex to try to get it to every single person. So our Brentwood paid employee benefits include health and dental insurance. And, health insurance, there's single, couple, family. Dental insurance, we currently offer 2 different packages. And I'll get to that maybe later on as well, and then the health care and insurance summary that I'm going to be doing. Life insurance, short-term disability insurance, New Hampshire retirement, and we have both Group 1 employees In the town, where we pay 12.75% of their salary into the retirement fund. And Group 2, fire and police, those are the rates for 2025, not 2026. Those are the 2025 rates. So it's 29.15% for fire and 30.95% for police. Then we have FICA, which is a total of 7.65% for the Group 1. That's the 6.2% Social Security, as well as 1.45% for Medicaid. And then on Group 2, which is our police and fire employees, they are not eligible for Social Security. So we only have to pay the 1.45% Medicare. And then there's earned time accrual, which is basically vacation time. And then paid holidays. So those are all of the employee benefits. And again, on the earned time accrual, it varies based on years of service. So as Letty's saying, you can see some of these are very variable depending on the role, and then how many years service, and then which plan they actually pick. So what I listed the two links there. This is from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, March of 2025. In the private sector, the ranges for the compensation ratio are typically 30 to 40% of salary. And I thought what was interesting is, and it's been a while for me, probably 15 years since I actually did salary and benefits with employees. And this is back in the day with AT&T and Lucent, we were using 1.2. But it makes sense that now it's 1.3 or 1.4, 30 to 40%, because of just the cost of healthcare alone has just skyrocketed for everybody. So I'm sure that's why it's gone up that much. And then in the public sector, as expected, because of pensions, and usually benefits are better in the public sector and salaries are less, but the Bureau of Labor Statistics show that the common range right now is 40 to 60% of salary. And the BLS has a typical rule of thumb. In the private sector, salary times 1.3 to 1.4 is about the total compensation. So in other words, an employee that earns $50,000 of salary, the true employer cost is usually between $65,000 and $70,000. So that's what you would use for budgeting purposes, is the $65,000 to $70,000. And in the public sector, the salary is salary times 1.4 to 1.46. 1.4 to 1.6 of total compensation. So an employee earning $50,000, the true employer cost would be somewhere between $70,000 and $80,000. And I believe this was March of 2025. These numbers came out from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So I took just one of the 9 scenarios that I did for the town, and I used a police officer who's making $50,000 of salary, who has 5 years service, and chose couple health insurance. And what this shows is basically the costs for each one of those. You can see, obviously, the largest piece is the salary, or $50,000. The next one is the health insurance, $23,775. The New Hampshire retirement, which backs to that percentage that I had shared of, I believe it was, I think it's 30% roughly for police. But New Hampshire retirement is $15,475. And then the earned time, because he has 5 years service, you have 160 hours, or $3,846. And all the way down, all the pieces are shown there and how much they cost. So if you look, the salary and wages of $50,000, the total benefits cost are $47,118, gives you a total compensation of $97,118, or a total compensation ratio of 1.94. So this is just one of the 9 that I did, and I will share those with everyone with one of the
Can I just
next.
ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure, of
Where
course.
did you get the 50,000 from?
I just looked at average salaries in town and tried to pick, as you see, I think I used 40,000, 50,000, and I think 80,000. I kind of just took, oh yeah,
No.
they're not real,
Oh, I know they're not real, but that's, so I think that number's low, and that will just change the ratio.
oh yeah, and you'll see that. I think I did either 75 or 80,000 to show that, yes, it definitely does. Absolutely, absolutely. Yep. So I did several employment scenarios, again, because, as Letty pointed out, as salary goes up, total compensation ratio will shift because the healthcare cost stays the same. The retirement costs will go up. You know, if I could, anyways, there's a lot of levers there, but for sure you are correct. As salary goes up, the the compensation ratio will come down, and you'll see that in the scenarios that I did. And again, I was trying to vary the levers as much as I could to try to come up with a kind of an average just to see how we're doing in town. So in the scenarios that I did, our compensation ratio ranged from 1.59 to 2.24. And the average of all of the scenarios was 1.89. So our town, in comparison to the average of around 1.9, is 25% above the BLS range of 1.4 to 1.6 for public sector compensation ratios. So, and this just shows, again, basically the rule of thumb that the BLS would use for a wage earner of $50,000. They say between 70 and 80,000, and if you use our average, the $50,000 wage earner the cost would be $94,557. Now, the higher compensation ratio is not a bad thing. It really is not. Yeah, we're spending more on benefits than what the BLS average is, but an average is an average, right? What this does, I mean, and it's something we should keep track of to make sure that, okay, we don't want to go too high, but we don't want to let this start to slip, because the compensation ratio should be used to attract talent when you're interviewing and hiring somebody. It's something you want to show them is the total compensation package. And it also is something that you can use to retain talent for funded positions, because when you're talking to somebody about salary, you have to make sure you're sharing with them that it's bigger than just salary, it's compensation. And we're doing pretty good in terms of compensation ratio in the town of Brentwood.
Wait, I have a quick question.
Sure.
So the range from the BLS is obviously a national average. Were you able to find any data about compensation ratios for like either like by region or to compare to other like
Yes.
towns in our area? Because obviously retirement varies wildly state by state. You know, insurance plans, what you can offer,
Correct.
whatever, state by state, very different.
I couldn't, yep, you're absolutely right. I could not find anything that showed New Hampshire only. And I even think in New Hampshire, I would think if we were going to try to do this, we would want to stick to, Rockingham County.
Yeah.
Similar size, like I had done on other studies, 30, maybe plus or minus 1,000 people, and similar valuation. If that's something the board wants to do, I think I would probably wait till we have a new town administrator and see what they think about this, because to get that data, it would probably require us going direct to those communities and asking them to fill out some sort of a survey for us, right? Because I really don't know where this would be publicly shared. And I don't
Some
know.
of it is publicly shared, and I think, I completely agree. We turn the light on at the same time because based on my experience just working with various states and commercial sector, it varies quite a bit. Like, it really varies. You can hire someone so much cheaper in Ohio. I can promise you the ratio is gonna be negative. Like,
So they do have it broken out by region. So we couldn't get it down to New Hampshire, but we could at least get the Northeast region?
Yeah.
No, but it's right here.
What does it say?
The average wage,
No, but this isn't wages.
so wages is part of it. I'm just,
No, well, just so you know.
I'm
Just so you know, I had no, there's nothing in here that talks about
I'm just
whether,
telling you what the numbers are so you know where the
No.
percentages are coming from.
oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think this analysis has the potential to be insightful. Right now, I think it's telling about a third of the story. And so I think when it's coupled with a wage analysis at the same time, then you start to gain a more holistic view. So
Sure.
like, this is great. I think this is a really good start. I think we can regionalize it to like hone in a little bit more and then
Just
pair it
jumped.
with a wage analysis so that we can really understand
Sure.
how much, compensation ratio alone attracting and retaining talent, probably not, but compensation ratio coupled with a wage analysis, that now you're talking.
I totally agree with you 100%.
Wait, I want to hear the numbers Letty has.
Okay, I was only
Yeah,
going
go
to give
ahead.
you the numbers because giving you the percentages alone aren't going to mean anything unless you know what the other numbers are. So it's 69.2% is the wage and salary, and 30.8% are the other types of compensation. The dollar amounts, 30.8. The dollar amounts that go with those are $38.99 per hour for wage and $17.33 for compensation. And again, the only reason that, because as we mentioned,
I
the number matters. 'Cause
and the reason why I got really antsy about wage is because, I mean, we have different job descriptions. We have different roles. I mean, so when you start talking about wages of a firefighter versus the wages of a clerk or whatever, it's just, they're two totally different things. And I agree that you would want to look at a wage of a firefighter in this area, like to compare wages, but I had no desire to get into that. I don't have the time, or I don't think it's our role to do that either, but
But I think what Letty's saying is that if the average is $38.99, that full-time translates to 81,000 on average. So that if you take 81,000 and all
Okay.
the same benefits,
well,
the
if you look,
ratio will go down.
if you look, you can look, I used 75. I could, if you want me to do 81, I could put it in there, but you can see it varies. So at the very bottom, 15 years service, $75,000 of wages. So it's pretty close to the 81, but you can see it varies, right? Because if you have the first column is a 15-year employee, so that's a group 1 employee making $75,000 who chooses single health insurance. The total benefits are $44,255. The ratio is 1.59. You take that same $75,000 wage and you have it as a police officer who chooses the couple plan, you'll see that the ratio is 1.82 because the total benefits are $61,180. And again, that's because their retirement is so much higher on a group 2 employee, right? And obviously this employee is also taking couples health insurance, not single, so it's more. And then if you look at the fire, who takes a family, again, that their retirement is similar. You see the benefits are pretty close, right? $68,151. That's because I believe the police is at a little bit over 30%, and the fire is at 29% on the retirement. But you can see they're 1.991 because of the difference in the health insurance. And all I did was, if you look at I averaged all 3 of those, it came out to be 1.77. If you take the average of all of these scenarios on this screen, it came out to be 1.9. And again, all I was trying to do was see, are we in good shape or are we not in good shape? It's something we need to look at. I think the data shows we're in good shape here. And I think this data shows from a from a benefits perspective on our attracting and retaining talent, I think we would be in pretty good shape based on the numbers.
From
Now,
a
again,
benefits perspective, yes.
Correct.
But from a compensation perspective, we
To-
would be analyzing it holistically. So I'm not ready to make a claim about good shape or bad shape until we do that.
Dan,
think
I
we push ourselves as a committee to pull those numbers together.
I totally agree with you. Never, not making any comment on wages for different classifications of employees at all. That's a totally separate discussion. And again,
No, but I think
it's
by
outside of-
separating it, you have the potential to sort of skew findings from an analysis which is done in isolation that doesn't give a complete picture. So I wouldn't separate it, actually. I would include it together with the compensation ratio analysis to get a complete picture.
So in other words, you think to look at fire as a standalone kind of, what are we paying in town for an average firefighter? And then that those benefits would be exactly whatever. I mean, if the average came out to be 75,000, that would be the number, 1.91. But if you think, if the average we were paying is,
I'm not looking at it
60,000.
only for its impact on the compensation ratio. I'm looking at it as part of the overall compensation package and our ability to attract and retain talent. So yes, I do think we should look at a firefighter. We should look at a police officer.
Oh.
We should look at actual numbers
Sure.
up against.
and again,
other
this gets
towns.
back to, I totally agree with you that there's, salary is a piece of this. And I'm not talking, this has nothing to do with the salary piece of it. It's just the benefits piece of it. I mean, there's other factors as well. There's just, do you want to be in this community or not? I mean, there's things like that too, right? Where are we high costs thing or not? Or,
Yeah.
but I totally get it. And I'm glad you're both bringing this up because it's helping me, because I was gonna have to explain that people would jump to a conclusion that this has some whatever, meaning one way or the other on how much we pay people in town. And this does not have anything to do with how much employees are paid. to
Right.
do
So we
those-
should
to
include
provide
that as
services.
part of the picture too.
Yeah, I mean, again, I just know.
I don't know
was
what it
look-
is.
The reason
We
why I
should
looked
push
at this,
ourselves to do
is
the
the reason why I did this was because we're so heavily involved with the health insurance, and it got me thinking on, wow, how are we doing on the full benefits package? And health insurance is a big piece of that benefit. So,
So, question though, and remind me, do we pay 100% of health or do we?
For a
don't?
single person.
Right, so we don't for
So,
family and, but
I'll-
did you take that into consideration?
Yes, absolutely, that's
Okay,
all in here.
So I think what's misleading though still is, and I agree with Dan, is that when you look at these average ratios in hypothetical scenarios of wages, then someone could go on and say, oh my God, we're paying 90% in benefits, but we do not.
But
Most
none
them,
of this is
I don't know, right?
none of this
It
is
would be good to
hypothetical.
know. Well,
None of it is hypothetical. This is real. If you have a police officer with 15 years services
Well,
earning
if you-
75,000, that is,
do we
it's
pay a
1.87.
police officer with 15 years of service 75,000?
No.
No, that's the thing. So your ratio would have been different.
The largest
because
portion of the compensation
wage-
package has been excluded
Okay.
from this analysis.
What's that?
Salary and wages.
This is way too low.
So I think, Jim, thank you for, I'm sure, the hours of time you put into creating this. And to back up, and you initially said that there was a subcommittee of this budget committee several years ago that looked at this stuff and never did anything with it. That's not exactly true. We came up with like a 5-page report and gave it to the select board, and the select board did nothing with it. So it wasn't that the subcommittee didn't do the work. And I don't think that Jim is trying to show specifics of everything here. I think what he's given is kind of an overview. I know there was a time when I asked, actually many years, that I asked for specific information so that we could do this in real time with real numbers, and I was refused the information. So we've tried to do this to a greater extent in the past, and we're not given the information to do it for real. So I think what Jim's done here is taken some numbers and some, because I looked at the same thing, I'm like, who's making 40,000? You know, these aren't real salaries. But he's just trying to give us an idea that, it's not just salaries when we talk about what our employees make, there's a lot more to it.
Michelle, I'm confused, though. I'm sorry, I just don't want misrepresentation there, but we were given specifics on salaries and health. We could have put it together, we just didn't.
Maybe you were,
No, we had it in
not
the
for specific
report.
individuals.
We could take it as a department and calculate it that way.
I mean, you're asking for more specific information, but what I'm saying is we tried to get more specific information and wasn't given to us. I'm
Some
just saying
departments
that
are
I
one
think,
person.
thank you, Jim, for the effort that you've put in to try and, try and dive deep into this.
No, that's
topic.
100%. I'm just worried about the way that it might be misunderstood, that's all.
The other thing that I will mention, which has nothing to do with this, is that the state has historically underfunded the retirement costs that they mandate. So in 2000, the employer contribution was 7.13% for police and fire, or I guess, in 2010, it was 19.95%, and now or in 2020, it was 30.09%. So the amount that the local municipalities is responsible for funding has risen greatly over the last 25 years, and that is not something that we have control over. So just,
No.
I don't know how.
And it's a
others-
big piece. No, it's a big piece.
And that's gonna be the same probably in every town, right?
Correct. Well, it's statewide, correct.
Yeah, I don't know how one manages a budget without being able to see salary and wages down to an individual level. We certainly do that on the school board side, whether it's a teacher or a principal, whoever. I think that would be an important next step for this analysis. And Jim, this is great. Like the compensation ratio stuff is awesome. This is like, I feel like you're dialed in on it. I just want to pair it with a little bit more.
The only thing that I want to make sure, I don't think I want to get involved in, is if we're going to look at, and I think it's important to look at what are the salaries that, for individual positions. In a rural town like this, what do you pay for this position and what are we currently paying now? It's a big task to do that. And, again, it's getting the data from similar towns. I don't want, because if you try to go with a state average, I don't think that is accurate because I don't think it would be right.
Here you've used national
No,
average.
no. On compensation ratio, I'm fine with it. I'm talking about salary. I'm talking about the salary. of
Why is it
somebody.
okay for one but not the other?
Well, I think all this is trying to show is, are we in the right range on providing benefits
Yeah,
to
so let's
employees? And I
determine
think
if we're in
all
the
this,
right range or not on
I
the salary
believe-
and wages side as well.
I believe that this shows, even at the regional level, where we're above the regional average, what Letty gave.
But
I'm sorry, guys, I gotta get going. This is a
Okay,
really
Dan.
good start, though.
yeah, I would be curious to see the 75K be the low end, and there would be two above it, because I think that's more realistic for Brentwood.
Okay, I can look at the salary of all the employees that was in the town report last year and put it into some sort of a.
You don't, I
a
mean,
budget.
but to your point, it doesn't matter. We could just pick numbers, right?
Well,
There's
I was just
75.
gonna say, if you want me to run it with 100,000, and I don't know. I mean, but you also have to tell me, is it? Do you want me to do the same with $100,000 employee?
Sure.
Okay.
Because, like, you can see as the amount of wages goes up, the ratio goes
Correct.
down.
Correct.
And
Yeah, you can see, like, if you look under the fire, right, as the salary, as the wages are going up, it went from 2.24 to 2.09 to 1.91, right? It's gradually going. But I think when you hit to 100,000, even it gets to 1.8. We're still above the average of 1.5, 1.6.
But that's then where the next question that I would ask is exactly what you're saying. What do other communities around us have for their ratio? Because
Right.
I'm wondering if there's something specific about the way New England is or the way New Hampshire is compared to the entire country. Because you're comparing that 1.7
Right, to the Bureau of Labor Statistics,
the
national average
entire-
for public sector employees, including federal, state, and municipal.
But
That's what the
why-
number is.
Yep, but like, to Dan's point, it might be more helpful to compare that to the Northeast number. Because things are cheaper in other parts of the country than they are here.
True. So I'll, if you want, I will try to get, I will run it for $100,000 wage earner, and that'll give us the numbers, and then I'll try to see if I can get the compensation ratio to be more regionally. You have the numbers here? I
Yeah,
can work that?
I can email you the link to.
Yeah,
my-
thank you. I will do that.
Because I would love for my house to be valued at and to be able to buy a house for what they can pay for a house in the South.
Yeah, well, yeah. I'm not sure.
Uh-huh.
Make them say all kinds of things.
Does the board have any other questions or comments or feedback on this before I go open it to the public?
I just want to say that, just to be clear, I think this is great. I just agree with Dan that we should drill further in. And I do have a picture in my head of, remember when we had benefits committee, Michelle? That's, I think, when we had it. And I'm going through my emails trying to find it, but we did get that list. Just for comparison, we could
We
look and
got the
figure
list
it out.
once. We got the list once.
Right, I
And
just don't think we
remember
did
what year
anything
that
with
was.
that.
I know Ellen was the chief. So however many years ago that was.
No,
was the
that
only
was,
time that
because
we-
then I wasn't on the budget committee.
Well, then we didn't, to my knowledge, ever get individual salaries like that. But anyway, I mean, there's a lot of ways we could take different numbers and, throw them in a graph and make them look various ways, but, thank you, Jim.
Yeah, I'll just end it with, I'll be honest with you, I didn't put 100,000. One of my concerns was that if I put the number too high, that somebody would say, why are you putting that number so high? We don't have people making that much. Right? It really went through my head, and
But we do.
I probably should go through all of the salaries, but I think I will definitely do this and send it to the team. I'll update it with that. Thanks, Letty, and thank you, everyone, for their comments. Thanks. And at this point, I'll open this up. Anyone in the public want to make a comment, question, anything on this specific topic before we move on?
Oh, yeah, probably.
Sure. Just put the microphone on, please. Name, address.
Jim Burlow, Scrabble Road. It's readily apparent that the taxpayers are very generous in total compensation to our employees. We can go ahead and dive into what does this county in Ohio pay. I don't pay the taxes in Ohio. I don't pay the taxes anywhere else. I pay the taxes in Brentwood. I think it behooves us as a community, as a committee, to be focused on what Brentwood is doing. And it shows here that we have been very generous with our employees. However you want to think about it, however you want to break it down, it goes beyond the salary line item. It goes way beyond that because there are intangibles here that, oh, I make $30 an hour, roughly 60 grand a year. Well, wait a minute. There's a lot more to it than that. And as we're moving forward and we are getting crunched left and right with costs going up significantly, we cannot be continuing to continue as we've always done. This has got to be thought about over the long term because we're approaching that point where every house in Brentwood's paying $12,000, $15,000 a year taxes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burlow. Anyone else? Okay. With that. The next item is subcommittee updates. I guess I'll be doing the health insurance sub-team that Michelle and I had. We kind of had discussed this at our last meeting. This is the same chart that I shared with everyone last meeting. This is just a breakdown of the 2025, basically it's the health insurance budget for the town, showing the total invoice for the coverage and plan, as well as the town cost and the employee cost. And again, this goes back to, we reviewed this last time, the town pays 100% for single coverage, 75% for couple and family on the Plan A. The town portion of the Plan A is the same as the Plan B. So the town pays the town portion of that Plan A if they choose the same coverage on Plan B, which equates to the town paying 91% for the couple family and 100% of the single plan. So that's what you can see in that, the percentages just goes by the amounts that we pay. So we're paying on Plan A for a single, the town pays $1,320. We pay that in the, for the Plan B, it's only $1,094. So again, it's 100%. On the couple plan, you can see we pay $1,981 on the Plan A, which means we pay $1,981 towards the $2,188 Plan B. And we pay $2,674 on Plan A. And if you choose Plan B, we give you that, we pay the same $2,674 toward it, $2,953. We also have a no election. If the employee doesn't sign up for health insurance, we pay a $1,300 per year bonus. And we budget based on all participants as full-time, because if there's a part-time employee, we pay 75% of the single, and we pay 75% of the 75% for couple and family. But when we budget, it was done based on everyone being full-time, plus you put in 3 additional participants as the highest rate in case you have mid-year changes or additions. So it's kind of a requirement, and the total budget was $596,674. And again, we reviewed this last time. Now, I should say that we met with Health Trust. This was Michelle, myself, and the town administrator on August 6th to kind of go over, are there ways we could tweak the plans or tweak the coverages or whatever to see if there's a way we can help the employees and help the town on the cost side of this. And he did give us some ideas, and I will be covering those. But one of the things that he did mention to us was that, yeah, you know, we don't get involved with like 75, 25, 100%, 90%. We don't do that. That's, you guys, the municipal side does that. But he had this chart that I gave him that I just shared, and he said, you know, you might want to look at your incentive. It's kind of not making sense in the way you're doing this, and that you're paying on the highest plan, and then you're using that cost toward the middle plan. That's usually not how you incent. He kind of hinted. And it also came up at our meeting here. I'm not going to put Gabby, my friend, on the spot, but like even you got up, and I remember you pointing to that table going, hey, look, this family plan, I think you pointed to the line, you said the family plan B, the employee's paying $279 a month for $1,000 deductible. Like, that's unheard of. Like, and believe me, I thought the exact same thing when I first saw that. I'm like, wow, that's like unbelievably inexpensive considering what people usually pay for that. But, and my point is that he mentioned about the way that we do the incentive. So I went and I pulled the employee handbook. The employee handbook states that the town provides full-time employees with health insurance, and that the town offers 3 insurance plan options, A, B, and C. the town pays 100% of the premium for the single coverage plan for full-time employees and pays 75% of the premium for two-person and family plan with eligible dependents for plan option B. Employees may elect which plan option they want to enroll in. Employees electing option A are responsible for paying the additional premium, which is the difference between plan option A and plan option B, to maintain that same coverage option. And employees electing option C are responsible for, and if there is any balance of the premium due, which was the difference between plan option B and plan option C, plus obviously the deductibles that would apply on these plans. So back to that first chart, and I'll get to this, but this is right from the handbook, right? That we're supposed to be basing our incentives on Plan B, not Plan A.
How do you know which is which?
I think it's pretty obvious which is which. That Plan A is your highest plan, Plan B is your middle plan, and Plan C is your lowest plan. Otherwise, like I said, incentive plan doesn't make any sense, and you wouldn't be using words by you pay the difference between plan option A and B, because that by definition, you're paying the difference because Plan A is more expensive than Plan B.
Right, I was more saying that we only have two right now.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why that is, but
I don't either.
I'll
But
give
the
you.
point is that we
I will
don't
tell
know-
you.
We don't
I
know
mean,
which one, like, what if
Okay.
B is the one that got dropped?
All I'm saying is the way the handbook is written, A is the most expensive, B is in the middle, and C is the least expensive. Otherwise, the first and second bullets make absolutely no sense. And I don't know why there wasn't a Plan C. If you'd like me to give you my opinion, I'd give that. I suspect it's because it would even make even more ridiculous no sense, because then you'd be paying you'd have a $3,000 deductible plan for free. But you're already getting a $1,000 deductible family plan for $280 a month. So why go to a $3,000? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like I suspect that's why there's no Plan C, because there would be no, if you went to the $3,000 deductible plan, and I don't have the costs here,
No,
but
no, I think that what you're calling Plan B
Mhm.
was Plan C. Because it has a deductible. I'm wondering if the one that disappeared was the one that was in the middle, and that's where we,
okay. I don't know. I'm just telling you that the handbook says we offer three, that we're supposed to base our ratios are supposed to be based on the middle plan.
right,
it-
I
Not
don't
the
think there
most
is one, is what
expensive.
I'm saying. Because we
Well,
see how,
but I'll just be honest with you. Health Trust last year offered at least 4 plans to us.
for
There-
sure.
There's a zero deductible, a 1,000, a 3,000,
I'm
a
not saying that we
5,000.
didn't. I'm not saying that that's not accurate. I'm just saying that I don't know when the third plan disappeared, and I wasn't,
I don't either.
so,
And I'm not here to talk about the past of what's happening. I think what I will eventually will get to is how we should do the budget this year. We should do the budget properly. I don't know why this was done this way.
Well, I think, Letty, to your point, if you go back, Jim, to the graph at the table, if there was, probably doesn't make sense for anything to be in between Plan A and Plan B, because Plan A is a $0 deductible and Plan B is $1,000. To have anything in between that would be,
I absolutely agree now, but I'm saying when that policy was written,
In 2025, there was a zero deductible plan,
No, you're-
AB
please
20.
listen.
Okay.
When that policy was written, which was probably 20 to 30 years ago,
yeah.
what you have as Plan A was Plan A. There was a different plan in between those two that isn't there anymore. And then the third one was that one that we have with the deductible was Plan C. That's all I'm saying, is that that policy was written for not these plans.
But it's still the policy.
It's okay.
Oh, I know.
It's okay. And
So I think whatever plan, I mean,
I think we need to rewrite the policy. I don't know that applying the current policy to
Hmm.
our current situation is going to be beneficial.
I think is very beneficial.
let's see how it plays out. 'Cause I think,
Correct.
Jim, that's
That's the whole point of this, right?
recommendation,
Correct.
is to see if what would happen if we applied the policy in place to
Correct.
plans that are available.
Correct. So this is just showing employee handbook versus the 2025, what was budgeted and offered. So the handbook says, obviously, that you offer 3 plans, we only offered 2. And again, if you look at Health Trust in 2025, there were at least 4 plans that they offered us.
I completely agree with you.
Okay.
But when we were doing this last fall, there was no town administrator, and the select board intentionally decided to make
And
no changes.
I will say this again. I'm more gonna, I think I should just keep going forward because I am more interested in showing this board and stating that we should do this correctly per the handbook this year and not repeat the mistake that was made last year and maybe the year before and maybe the year before and I don't know how far back.
And I think that's because well, I think you should keep going, but I think that if we right size to the handbook, then going forward, we can make policy changes, like handbook changes or whatnot, but I think I think your presentation is,
Okay.
this is the scenario if we right size to the handbook, which is the suggestion.
Right. Okay.
That
Could
I
I
get.
please ask a clarifying question too, because it become important? What is the benefit year? Does that align? Are we gonna be in time? That's another, because there were times when we were not in time.
Open enrollment.
Open
Nope.
enrollment typically happens in the fall, and we go January 1st to December 31st.
Right, but it is during the open enrollment that these should be presented, right? So is the idea, I guess, and sorry if I'm jumping, is the idea then to roll it out like right now or for 2027?
I would hope, I think we have time to do it for this enrollment period since it's November
Okay.
and decisions don't have to be made until December. Okay. So anyways, if you look at the handbook, we offer 100% of single coverage of Plan B, 75% of the couple family of Plan B. And right now, we're offering 100 of Plan A and 75% of couple family of Plan A. The handbook states if the employee enrolls in Plan A, the employee is responsible for paying additional premiums between Plan A and Plan B and is responsible for any difference in premium if Plan C is chosen. What we did, since the town based the contribution rates on the highest cost plan, Plan A, the town actually paid the difference in cost from Plan B to Plan A and not the employee. According to the handbook, if you do the math on how these work, the town pays 75% of the cost of Plan B for a couple and family. If you look at what we actually did, we paid 91% of the cost for the couple family. The handbook says we should pay 83% of the Plan A cost for single coverage. We paid 100% of the single coverage. The handbook states we pay 62% of Plan A for a couple family, and we actually paid 75% of the Plan A for couple family. If you go through, and I have the next slide will be the actual numbers, but the budget, if you follow the handbook and had Plan A, B, and you don't even need a Plan C, I just kept, if we had the enrollment the way it was with A and B, that the budget would have been $502,099, which is a $94,575 reduction in appropriation, in the budget appropriation, or about 16%. And because that's, again, based on a $596,674 appropriation that we had last year. And basically what this shows is the same Plan A and Plan B, and I put the Plan C that, and this is, again, these are the 2025 rates for Plan C, which is a $3,000 deductible plan. And you can see, if you put the town 100% on the Plan B single and the 75% for the couple and the family, and then you apply those costs to the Plan A. So you can see the town costs on Plan B, $1,094 for a single, the $1,094 gets applied to Plan A. But the total cost of Plan A is $1,320, so it leaves the employee paying the difference. Yeah, and again, I don't know how to zoom. Liz, as I said, on the website, you can get these and view them. I apologize. I didn't want to print out all this and have all this paper lying around here. I don't want to save the forest, you know, but, exactly. So anyways, I just followed the handbook. I applied those, the town costs of the Plan B got applied to Plan A and to Plan C. And, well, the numbers are what they are, and that the total budget would have been 502,099. So again, just pointing out, in this case, the town, per the handbook, we pay 100% for single coverage, 75% for couple and family of Plan B. And the town pays the town portion of Plan B for the same Plan A coverage or the same Plan C, which is a $3,000 deductible, and that's what the numbers show. Again, left alone the no election. If they don't sign up for insurance, you get $1,300 a year. And again, summarizing.
It's okay. It timed out. It'll come back.
Again, this is assuming the enrollment would stay the same. I don't think it would, but assuming the enrollment stayed the same, the budget would have been, appropriation would have been $94,575 less than what we had. So now, again, so I was kind of going down this path. Michelle and I were going down a path to come up with suggested changes to our plans that we have now, and maybe some things. And Andrew was really helpful, and we were going to work this with the town administrator and then the select board. But then, like I said, I kind of stumbled upon this handbook thing, and it really, really hit home that he was right when he said the way that we did this last year, the incentive was really screwed up and just doesn't make sense. The handbook actually makes sense how it's written, and keeping it generic makes sense because, you know, who knows what platinum plans were 10 years ago and what a gold plan and a silver, because that's essentially what you're doing here. You have a platinum, a gold, and a silver plan. Or if someday we decide to go with just gold, silver, bronze, because we make sense and the employees think it makes sense because it's a better cost for the town and for the employee, maybe that's it. But again, I think the handbook actually was written correctly and well done. Somewhere along the line, I think just the implementation got kind of hosed up. And what I'm proposing is that we, at least when we budget this year, do it properly. But in addition to that, I'd like to share some of the suggestions that Health Trust had given us at that meeting. And again, these are just strictly suggestions that he gave. I think these would just be talking points that we would want to have with either a town administrator when we have one, and or whoever's going to be doing the HR kind of work this year, and the select board, you know, kind of like select board and budget committee together. And then what we want to do, I think we would want to share this with employees and get their feedback on what they think of this. You know, what do they think in terms, because it does impact them. It helps there. If there's things that improve the cost situation for them, we'd want their feedback. Yeah, absolutely, sure.
Liz Faria, South Road. I have one suggestion, which is amend the handbook to say 2 to 4 plans. And we'll offer 2 to 4 plans, then you could cover the 2, 3, or 4. So you have,
Well, I mean, I just say, we don't own the handbook. I mean, the handbook.
oh, it's not.
No.
So the 3 is
The
something.
select
So you
board,
have
no,
to
no, what I'm
change-
saying is the select board
What's the select board's?
owns the
Okay,
handbook,
well,
absolutely.
my suggestion, so you don't have to worry about the 3 or the 2 or whatever. And then my question, I know you don't want to go back, but why didn't we as a town pay the correct lower percentage? When you said the town actually paid 91 instead of 80, like why? Do we have any idea?
I have no idea.
Okay,
I mean, I'm not going to say that I didn't look to see if I could figure this out, and I believe we went through 3 years of select board meeting minutes to see if it ever was voted. And
So do you
I
know how
know
to
that
do
there was
them?
never a vote taken to change Plan A, B, C. I could not find any indication of a
okay,
vote.
but do you know how to do the correct percentage going forward?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very simple.
Okay,
And I mean, Liz, you brought it up, and I'll just say it. I mean, and if you go back and look at the November 14th, 2023 Select Board meeting minutes, I mean, clearly, I don't want to put him on the spot, but Paul Kleiman actually asked about this back then, and he asked about, the contribution rates, and it says, this is what's right from the minutes. Clement responded that the town covers 100% of the premium for single plans and 75% of the premium for two-person family plans, which is correct. She added the pricing for making the ABSOS 20/40, that's the $1,000 deductible plan. She said, for making the ABS 0/20/40 lower premium but carries a deductible plan, making that the town's preferred plan would be $595,000, which is higher than the recommended plan she is proposing. Now, again, I don't know what was being proposed, but based on this, I suspect that what Letty updated last year, the spreadsheet, was just something that was carried forward. I don't believe, this wasn't done by anyone last year. I believe we didn't have a town administrator, but this seems to indicate that the town administrator told Mr. Kleiman that making the $1,000 deductible plan would be more expensive than the zero deductible plan. And I will tell you that that is mathematically and financially impossible. It's not possible. I don't know why that was stated, but it was wrong. But he asked. And then,
well, it does seem like you want to go forward and not backward, and this
I do,
is a
but
lot
what I'm
of
saying is,
information.
I did try to go back to see if I could find, because I was concerned that perhaps there was a vote taken to change the handbook and no one did it, but that never happened.
No, my guess is that at some point we dropped a plan, and instead of changing the handbook to match, they just picked a new one to be the one that everything's based off of.
Could be. My theory is, I don't know if at one time they offered an even more expensive PPO that isn't even offered by the state anymore,
Right.
Yep, so that would have been.
and that nobody picked up on the fact and did it properly by making the new top platinum plan that the state has with the Plan A. No one did that.
Right, so if that used to be
And-
Plan B,
What I'm saying is that the state changed the plans, the Plan A, B, and C was changed by the state, and the town did not do it properly.
by Health Trust.
I think we're both saying the same thing, maybe. At one time, there was even more, a more expensive plan
Yeah,
than
the
we
state-
currently
you
have.
said the state.
Health Trust.
Okay, yeah,
I'm sorry, yeah, Health
not
Trust.
state
It's not the state, I'm
it's a
sorry.
choice that.
Health Trust, correct.
As a part of our subcommittee, can we just let you move forward? Because I know there's a lot more to share. And and some of the questions may be answered that way.
Okay.
I wonder if, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think like the current suggestion or recommendation that you'd like to propose is to move forward to right size to the handbook. And I wonder if providing more suggestions that are likely not to be implemented this year, maybe more than,
But they could be.
The only thing I would say, and I agree with you 100%,
yeah,
I absolutely am going to request that we budget per the handbook this year.
Right.
Based on A, B, and C. My concern is that the employees are going to take the brunt of this because the error that happened
yeah,
shifted costs from employee to taxpayer.
yeah, yeah,
And it's not their fault. It is not. We gave them, the town gave them options and said, choose which you want. And they had prices on there. The employees had nothing to do with this.
yeah, agreed.
But unfortunately, they're going to, when we do this right, they're going to see the change. And I know it's going to happen because we all go through this anyways, and they're going to be the same. They do it now. You're going to have to make choices based on how much you want to pay a month and then look at the deductible, right? Because this is what health, and that's what health insurance is. So maybe if we or the employees think it's beneficial for all of us to look at some of these options, then I would think about it. But I totally agree with you, Gabby. Like, I think it's a lot.
I do agree. Like when you look at the new table, it's definitely the employee going to take the brunt. And additionally, with these suggestions that you're going to go over, it might be an interesting exercise
Correct.
to look at the percentages
Right.
to see if, because healthcare in general is such a ominous thing to get your head around, and what options mean, what,
Correct.
and what you're giving up and what you're paying for.
Yep.
That it might be helpful to do another scenario in which we look at the percentages for a 1-year thing that we.
I totally agree with you.
I have just one quick question. When is, and it's to Letty, when are the plans that are going to be offered during open enrollment finalized, chosen, communicated? Like, how does that work? When is the,
Are you
what is the
talking-
timeline?
So we get them from Health Trust beginning of October, I want to say October 1st. And then I believe we have to have open enrollment by the middle of November. So the select board would make decisions about which plans we were going to offer. And then those would be presented to the employees, and then decisions need to be made so that everyone's ready to go for January 1st.
Okay, and then the process for something like this, and I'm sorry, just, we're gonna talk, it looks like about a lot of things. I just want to understand that it's doable in a way of, like, I don't know how it works. So it's to Michelle and Letty, you know, and you, of course, but in terms of how realistic it is that these things can actually be properly communicated to employees in time and, you know, put in, like, the changes were made essentially.
know.
Like, what's the process? Is that, is
There
it
is no-
just the
there is
select
no
board
process.
that needs to
I-
approve it, or is there a vote? Like, because I know some things need to be.
I'm going to be completely clear with
town?
you, I have no idea. I think it
Okay,
is
I
just
think
the
that's
select
biggest
board.
one. If it has to be voted on.
It's just the select board, however, because it's a change that impacts the employees negatively, I'm not sure that, I don't know how that would work.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm looking at it from, in the budget, there's a line item called health insurance that has an appropriation, and this board is responsible for coming up with a number for that line. And I want to work that with the select board, but I think we should, as a starting point, do it correctly this year per the
Jim,
handbook.
I
to see where
agree
it
with
goes.
regards to the calculation of the number. All
Yep.
that I'm saying is that in the commercial world, it would be HR involved. So who is the HR in municipality?
It was the town administrator here. That's who was working. That's why
Right,
she
right
was
now, we
working
don't
with us.
have it, right?
Right.
So that's all that, okay, that's what I'm asking. I'm saying who's then acts as HR, because I would be more concerned about any potential exposure on that end, that it wasn't sufficient notice, that it wasn't sufficient, like, you know, we don't want, like, in that way, we could actually hurt the town legally, and if we don't, that's fine. I just
Well,
want to make sure
I'm-
that we are
yeah,
not, like.
and I'm not a lawyer, so, but I will say this, that the entire handbook is not a contractual thing. I mean, there's a whole section in the front of the handbook that talks about, it's not contractual. Again, I'm just talking from a financial standpoint for the 2026 budget. This group is gonna have to come up with an appropriation for that. And
It's not contractual.
and
but
once the rates
it
come
is
out in
HR.
October, I'll be able to estimate what the cost to the town would be if the enrollment stayed the same. And then if enrollment changes, well,
I
we
think
could
we're saying
adjust it.
different things. I'm just saying that
Okay.
I'm concerned with potential situation in which we may break some rules or expose the town to legal action. That's
We
what I'm
can
saying.
probably verify that with Health Trust. They would know that.
But the assumption would be that annually, the administrator select board would be reviewing options, and this would be the time that that would happen, when the options come out from Health Trust, and then open enrollment happens. So I don't see how there could be a difference in us helping to support the select board and/or health administrator, because it hasn't been, this deep dive hasn't been done.
I agree with you. I agree with that statement, support the select board and the town administrator. I'm just saying that with regards to the budget committee tells what that line should be, that's where we might have a disconnect, that's all. So let's just be careful how we phrase things.
Sure.
I was just looking at your chart here, and the town cost,
Which chart, Letty?
sorry, the newest, the ABC one. Yeah, so do you see how the couple for Plan A and B, oh yes, never mind, that's the same. Never mind. I'm just getting confused between where all the numbers are coming from.
Okay, can we go to suggestions?
I'm ready. So the first one is the AB 20 zero deductible plan. If you eliminate that as the Plan A and you go with, especially if the demand is not high. Again, if people still want that, we keep it. But if the demand for it is not high, we should eliminate that from the offering and shift down to deductible plans 1, 3, and 5, because now, again, you have a lower cost plan. It has a higher deductible, but it has a lower cost, right? There's a lower cost for employee and it has a lower cost for town. So this was just one thing he talked about. And in fact, he mentioned to us that because if you go around in the private sector and try to find someone who either has an employer who offers zero deductible insurance or they pay for a I have not found anyone yet who has zero deductible insurance, but he told us that, yeah, it makes sense because private sector 25 years ago kind of stopped doing this because of the cost. But he said that public sector is just catching up to that now and looking at this same thing right now. And he also told us that we're not the only municipality that he's working with and talking to, because obviously we're all in the same boat here. So this was just one of the things he mentioned. We can also utilize employer-funded flexible spending accounts, and the town would contribute up to $500 per employee in addition to, so an FSA is basically the employee it's his tax rights pre-tax. So you put money aside that you can use for health expenses, and we could offer as a town to fund $500 into that person's FSA for spending toward co-payments, deductibles, things like that. Again, this is assuming, because as things start shifting, either expenses are going up and or you start getting into a deductible plan instead of a no deductible plan, we can kind of help with that. You can also, he mentioned utilizing employer-funded health reimbursement accounts, or HRAs, which provide reimbursements for qualified medical expenses such as copays. Now, this is a little bit different than the flexible spending account is something the employee sets up. It's theirs, and we could contribute to it. I believe it's a $500 max that he said, but an HRA is actually, we set up an account for the employee, and we could fund it with like $500 a year for single, $1,000 for couple, $1,500 per year for family coverage, and they can use that to pay for qualified medical expenses, like on copays and deductibles. And there's even an option where you can either fund the upfront portion of their deductibles, or you can do the second half, you know what I mean? And, oh, by the way, this money carries over, so if an employee doesn't use it, you can roll it to the next year to that same employee. So if you had funded, say, $1,000 into a person's HRA, they only use $700, well, the next year, we would only have to put in the 700 they used. The 300 actually carries by state law. So this is just another example of things that you can kind of do to help. Again, this is improving on costs for the town and helping employees with healthcare.
Are there any costs associated with setting up the FSAs or HRAs?
You know,
and kind of keeping
He
that, like, what is the,
he definitely didn't say that. That's actually a good question.
Okay,
I don't know.
I feel like usually there's some, like, there's different boxes, yeah, you have to check to be able to have those and have them be in good standing. So that, my next question was gonna be, what's the financial benefit of having that over, say, covering whatever percentage of just the upfront, like, premium?
Okay, that's a good question. He definitely didn't say. Yeah, I don't recall.
I don't think that
kind of
they're
feel
just
there
free.
wouldn't, no, if it's just something that we're deducting from their pay, then that's just a deduction. We wouldn't have to set up anything, you know, there
Yeah.
wouldn't be any kind of service fee on that. I don't know about the, I think they would both be that way, actually. They would just be.
HRA. It depends. But the benefits of these two options, the FSA and the HRA, is that you could go to $1,000 deductible plan or the higher deductible plans and potentially the town could pay a large portion of that deductible to help the employee, but the plans are so much less expensive.
Right.
So like,
Right.
it can come out to be a win-win,
Right.
but, you know, again, we would have to do more scenario planning so that way people could understand that. Because I think when we start talking about looking at health benefits and plans, the biggest worry is that benefits are going to be cut and their expenses are going to be doubled, and that's not the goal.
Correct.
I just want to reiterate that is not the goal. The goal is to look at what options there are, because we don't believe that the town is using the tools available to our fullest benefit and to the best financial impact for both the employee and the town.
Yes, and it also can't be ignored that under this corrected chart, the employee paying for the 1K deductible plan is gonna pay more than they were before.
If they're single, that would not be true. They would still pay zero,
Yes.
right? The single plan
That's
B
what I'm
is
saying, a
100%.
A family, because that's the highest one in that plan.
Right,
There are
it
the
would
most
be
number of
a
families.
difference of $300-ish a month times 12 is
That's a lot.
Agreed, and I think that's why Jim wanted to talk about these other suggestions. And that's also why I think we should look at different percentages potentially for this first right size year, which could help like soften the burden of this right sizing.
I understand what you're saying about the 1, 3, and 5, and I think that is totally true if you're starting with not anything in place right now, and I guess
Mhm.
that's my concern, is that I haven't heard anything that if I were an employee that would incentivize me to move to the plan that is the cheapest for the town.
I'm not asking, well, I wouldn't ask them to move to the cheapest for the town. I'm just saying they move to the one that they want and they can afford. That's what I think it is. It's not about what, it's not, I wouldn't, and I think some of this might help get them into a plan that has a lower deductible, but we're helping on the cost, or they can go to a higher deductible and really lower their cost.
Didn't he say that the two plans, or the two of the plans that he was talking about were literally the same plan, but one had a deductible and was so much cheaper? But the actual benefits of the plan weren't that different.
That goes back to the very first, the zero deductible plan. The cost is a lot higher. The co-pays are almost identical.
Right,
They're almost identical, right?
we're just paying more for it.
And I guess if I get to the next slide, following up on that, he told us about the site of service providers, that because we're in the Seacoast region, there's a lot of site of service providers. So if you need to have an x-ray or you need to have a test done, if you go to one of their providers, there are reduced or no copays or deductibles. So he said you actually can get into that, quote, $1,000 deductible plan. And if you use these SOS providers, you're not going to have a deductible, and they're paying a lot less money. And Letty, you're right. There's no way around it. Like, I believe that the doing it improperly made the cost to the employees lower than they probably should have been, and higher for the taxpayer than they should have been. And if we fix
I
this,
absolutely
it is
agree with
it is going to correct it, and it is going to cause the employees to have to pay more. And as you saw, the appropriation or the taxpayers piece comes down. It is true. That is absolutely spot on.
But it is going to depend on the plan.
Oh, absolutely.
It's going to depend on any of these other things that we might incorporate.
That
So
is
that's a
true.
scary number.
That's why I
No,
thought,
but
That's scary.
But that's why I don't think personally, I don't think it's fair to switch what we are going to ask them to pay and what the town is paying in the middle of a cycle.
Well, it won't be.
we're not-
We have to discuss it now, and it'll go into effect for next.
it's not,
year.
yeah, we're not even there yet. The
Oh,
rates haven't come out
I
yet.
thought somebody said we should do that right now.
I do think we should do it I think we should do it for this year's budget,
For
absolutely.
this
For,
next.
for next year's budget, for the 2020.
2026 budget,
Okay.
I believe we should do
I
it
thought
for
you were
the.
saying 2025?
Oh, no, no, no.
Oh, no.
Okay. 'cause
And,
you kept
oh my
on saying
gosh.
This year's budget.
Oh, no, no, I meant
No,
this
I-
coming budget. No, 2025, listen, I don't, what happened in 2025, it's done. And even though we have months left, I don't think we should even think about changing anything or trying to say like, oh, there was a mistake, you have to pay. It's just so wrong in so many ways. And I would never recommend that at all. No
That's
way.
why my face was looking.
I'm really sorry then.
No, it's okay. I should have clarified when you said this year what you meant. Oh, sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. We have a question.
Actually, just a comment.
Sure.
So, one is I appreciate you reading from, I'm sorry, Paul Kleinman, and I'm here as Select Board Chair. So, first off, I appreciate you reading that comment from the minutes. I think, it was a question that I had of our previous administrator, Ms. Clement, at the time, which now goes back over 2 years ago. I was doing my best to obtain the information that I thought would be relevant, and unfortunately, I felt like I was, in a sense, stonewalled and not given the correct information at the time, and it, for all intents and purposes, shut me down. So, two, I'll say, to the extent that 2 years later, or 2+ years later, that you were able to follow up on that and find this out as you have, thank you for doing so. I guess the final thing I'd say is that I do plan that this is part of the agenda for the select board moving forward, because I think this is a significant issue in terms of how this gets determined. I mean, I don't know how an HSA or an FSA, fits in and how that would ultimately change the amounts, but I do know that just putting that aside, that if we do the corrected way of doing things, it does end up in 2026 as a fairly significant hit to the employees, at least not the single ones, as Gabby points out, but those that have families and are on the couple plan. And I think as a select board, we're going to need to look at that carefully and determine what policy we ultimately implement for 2026 and beyond, because as you said, Jim, we do own that handbook, and we do need to make sure that this is both fair to the taxpayers and also fair to the employees. I know that as an employee, if I was looking at these kinds of differential in terms of numbers, particularly as it relates to family couple, we're talking about some fairly significant amounts. So the question that I'm going to be posing to the select board is, is there some sort of intermediate policy that we can implement in the handbook that perhaps does this on a transitional or graduated basis, and then but then ultimately reverts to how it was supposed to be. And I think that's an important discussion for the select board. I'd like that discussion to take place when we have a select board of 5, which will not be happening tomorrow, but hopefully by the following meeting, if not the following meeting, the one thereafter, but I suspect by the following meeting. But it's an important discussion. I think also that Julie, our finance director, needs to be integrally involved in this as well. And you guys were proactive in terms of meeting with Health Trust, and I think we need to do that on our end to ultimately come up with a policy that will make sense and has a balanced approach both to the taxpayers and the employees. So I think that's all I can say at this time, but again, I appreciate you bringing this forward.
Thank you, Paul. Yeah, and I agree. We have time because the new rates will not come out till the first week of October. I think he said we get them October 3rd or 4th. And
in speaking with Andy from Health Trust today, he said October 7th, but if he could get us those rates earlier, he will. I don't recall when the open enrollment is through. I know it was mentioned middle of November, but that sounds approximately correct. But we can tie that down as well.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. I think I covered the SOS providers. Andrew, Health Trust also said that he felt it was really, would it be beneficial, whatever we were going to do, that he would come and do our overview of the benefits with our employees, answer questions, things like that during our enrollment period, especially if we decide as a select board budget committee to say that maybe we should do some of these FSA or HSA approaches. Or even, again, I think we should get some feedback from employees on when we get these rates. I think you brought this up, Arlette, that, again, this assumes that these elections would stay the same. Right. They're not going to, because it's going to become real obvious, like, because of the error, it was really easy to pick the zero deductible, right? It was just easy. Where now, and I think if you take some of these into effect, that $1,000 deductible plan becomes really not so bad. And not, again, so then the cost differential to the employee isn't as bad as what if we leave it as it is. So yeah, no, go ahead, Paul. No, don't be sorry.
There was one other thing that I missed, is that I know you had earlier mentioned about looking back, over the 3 years to see if, where this had been flipped, or if it had been flipped. So I appreciate you doing that. I think Julie has also, done some of that as a secondary check, and hasn't been able to find that. And then also from an institutional standpoint, and I wish he was here to speak for himself, but I did have a conversation with select board person Artimovich who I spoke with about this, and he doesn't have any recollection either of this being flipped. He's been around the longest, and I think this was something that somehow, ended up being, done in some unilateral sense by the prior administrator. But again, that's speculation on my part.
Right. In audit, we call that Sally, same as last year. You just roll it forward. Jim, one thing that I think would be really helpful and potential, like I said, looking at different percentages to help with the right sizing and the impact to the employee. It could even be beneficial to see if we right size Plan B using what the employees pay now, or
Okay.
like with the new rates, what that would be, what the
Sure.
employees pay, and then applying that to Plan A. So it's almost like a interim right sizing, so that we're still creating an incentive for people to pick Plan B per the policy, and also not slapping them with a hard financial burden because of a town mistake. And so it might be, I don't know if it's when the rates come out or just another table that shows what that right sizing might look like if we used current,
Okay.
you know,
I mean, you and
town
I can
pay-
work on
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that with the
Yeah, I
current
think it'd
rates.
be
Yeah, we can do that with
simple
the
to
current rates and see
update.
what it kind of says or what it
shakes out.
shows.
And I'm sure,
And
you
then
know,
once-
obviously that means there's not as big of a town benefit, but it's a way to like support our employees.
Okay. Oh,
Hi, Julie Stevens, Finance Director. Paul had made me aware of this, and I did put together kind of a step towards that, a halfway step, based on the fact that Plan B should be at 75%, and right now they're paying 91, which is a 16% difference. So I did do a scenario with an 8% for next year, and then
okay.
going to the 75. I can share that. I can send it to
Sure.
you.
Yeah, no, yeah, that would.
Okay.
And again, I think tonight was started off being proposed suggestions from health trusts, right? On can we do things together with the employees to make costs better for the town and for the employees. And then it turned into this kind of like, uh-oh, like this wasn't done right. And it just so yeah, I think as we're doing this, maybe it's really good to look at these different scenarios to see which makes sense and do it that way.
I'll just add that I'm the one who did that handbook about 20 years ago when I was town administrator.
Well, thank you, because like I said, I think it was well-written, and it really is even,
It
like I
may
said,
have
it makes
changed
sense
some,
today.
but my recollection is the same as what you thought it was, that Plan B would be the one that everything was based off of.
Yeah, and like I said, it almost seems like it was written in a way that you didn't get bogged down in having to update it every year based on health trusts changing something, you know? And the incentive plan makes sense. It really did. And I'm telling you, this is why I think the health trust guy kind of said, you might want to look at this because something's not right. And boom, that's what we found out.
Jim Michaud, Select Board Member. So for people at home and people in the audience that are lost with all these numbers, the simple analogy is if we're on a ship out at sea, we're on a course right now that's dangerous. We need to right the ship, get the ship back to its proper course, because we're lost right now. We need to get back on course, and I believe that you're doing the right thing by finding out that there was an error and figuring out the best way to move forward. It's really that simple, because if not, we're on a dangerous course. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Jim.
I don't know if I'd call it dangerous.
Well,
I think that's
I also don't know if we can call it simple because we're dealing with employees and their families.
well,
But I agree, right? There was something identified and we need a course to path to move forward, but
I mean, and I'll just say that, I mean, I know, again, my oath was to the town of Brentwood, and it was done incorrectly. I want to get it done
I
correctly,
absolutely
but I also want to make sure that we're taking into account both the impact to our employees, who are very valuable, and as well as to the taxpayers who have been paying the bigger piece for
agreed.
who knows how many years, so.
So I have a comment.
Oh.
Robin Wrighton,
Hi, Robin.
a resident taxpayer. I'm a representative of the taxpayers who have been, first of all, thank you for finding this error. I don't know how you did that, but thank you. But as a representative of the taxpayers who are overpaying for these benefits, I'm not sure that I like to hear this phase in of a pay hike, of an expense for employees when I have been overpaying this for how many years now? If I, let's say, took a hike for my electric bill, and I called up the electric company and says, I'm gonna phase in my payment of this hike, do you know what they would say to me? Click, and then my balance would be overdue. So I don't understand why we're even entertaining phasing in this, for the employees to pay this when you have the options to find better health plans for them to choose from. Also, as an employee on the outside benefits, looking at health benefits, I've many times had my company tell me, sorry, we can't cover you with the same policy anymore, but here are 3 new policies that you can choose from. So now, yeah, maybe I'm not getting that 100% anymore, but I've got 3 others to choose from. And that's balancing the needs of the town or my company and myself. So this is not something new or unheard of. Thank you.
Thanks, Robin.
Thank you.
And I just wanted, because, the eye contact, obviously I said something that perhaps was misunderstood, but all that I was saying is that we have to understand the timeline, because one time that we tried to look into things, it was too late. So that's all that I was saying, that to ensure that it's not too late to remedy this.
I appreciate that. I understand we're September 8th today. The rates or the health benefit examples aren't coming out till October.
I was not aware of that, that's why I was
Okay.
asking.
Very
So
good.
now knowing that it's October, we're good.
So we have time.
Hopefully, it falls on the select board, not, necessarily us, but.
2, 3, 4 months.
And I appreciate the comment, Robin.
Thank
I
you.
really do. I just also, I need to say this, that again, this error was not because of the employees, and that's why I'm saying that I do believe that we need to look at some of these alternatives that'll help soften the blow and the change, because I mean, again, if any of us were in this situation, we wouldn't be happy about it. We really wouldn't. And it was not their fault. So I get why they're saying maybe we try to phase it in, but maybe we won't have to do that if we kind of work together and come up with some alternatives that make it work for both of us. And again, we can pull the employees in, and I'll be more than happy, Julie, to work with you on these when the rates come out, like different scenarios. I think that would be the best thing we could do, is come up with kind of like the whole several scenarios and present it to select board, budget committee, and the employees. I really do, since, they're gonna need to, I want them to feel like they're part of this process. And again, it's not that I believe me, I knew this would happen, because, yeah, the mistake caused the taxpayer to pay disproportionately more than they should have. But again, I want to resolve that. We all do. I haven't heard anybody say not to fix that. I do feel that, that the employees are going to take the brunt of it. And if we can figure out a way to make that change work better for all of us, I think it's worth looking into. Oh, did you have something? Sorry.
I was just going to say we're at our 2 hour mark.
All right, I'm just about done. Sorry. I think this is the last one, actually, is we're also working with a benefit consultant to investigate the cost of going direct to Anthem for not only employee health insurance, but dental and all the other benefits, versus utilizing the self-insured health trust. Because again, maybe we can save money. And a side note is, I mean, I know the law never went into effect this year, right? With the whole, with the whole health trust thing. But my gut just says if you can get direct insurance, there's no risk. Because you know that we've talked about this, that health trust is a risk pool. They're not an insurance company. And if, several small, we're in the small group under 50 employee January bucket. You have a few towns have some problems, right? Then it's possible that they could come and say, we ran out of money. I mean, it truly is just a bucket of money. And I heard loud and clear the state say they don't have the money to bail it out. And if it happens, you're going to be responsible. So I think it's worth looking at, and we had spoken to the former town administrator, and she actually was working with the benefits consultant, and he has all the information he needs to do this study. He finished it for the health care, but again, the rates aren't available till October, so, he's looking at current rates, and he's saying he can save.
I have a
I was just wondering who that was.
Sean Karen, he's a resident.
I have
He's
a
lives across the street
question
from me.
So, and I'm sorry if I misunderstood previously, but when I asked the question if why couldn't we go directly to Anthem or Harvard Pilgrim or whatever, at the time I was told that we can as a state, like as essentially municipality, we could only work with Health Trust.
That's not true. I don't know who told you or when it was. I just know that right now, we can absolutely go direct. There are other communities that have done it. In fact,
Because
I
if we
think
go
our
go
state rep
directly,
gave us,
Anthem is actually more expensive. There are other plans.
well,
That's the assumption, right? That usually when you pool with others, that your cost can come down. But it's an assumption, and so I think this is research.
and do you remember our state rep, Truer, gave us a package? Somebody from, I believe, Rye, was state rep or something, wrote this whole, it was a pretty detailed presentation on health care and health trust. And in there, he actually stated that it might be worthwhile for communities to look at going direct. So, like I said, Sean is a benefits consultant. He lives in Brentwood, and he was willing to do this for the town. The one thing I will say, both Michelle and I, from the beginning, even when we talked to Andrew, because there are other plans, we told him that we do not want to make any changes that would force them to have to get new doctors, because
Right.
we all have been through that, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think we had kind of decided now, and I kind of had told Sean the same thing, like, look, we don't want to hear about another plan where they would have to pick different doctors or whatever, because that's just disastrous. And he was like, no, Anthem's huge in New Hampshire, and I can do that, so. So he's working on that. He also, like I said, he's able to do all of the benefits, the same as Health Trust. We could go direct to get dental, the short-term disability, life, whatever it is. So that would just be another option that we could possibly present to employees and select board as well, right?
And we've seen that this past year when there was a scare that
Yeah.
something came up in the,
Yeah.
at the state level, that Health Trust said, if this happens, we will no longer, we'll pull out, will no longer
Right.
exist. So I think overall, no matter what, it's a benefit in
agree.
researching and doing our due diligence and homework, just to have the understanding of what
I agree
happened.
100% with that. And the only thing that I wanted to say is that if we're talking Anthem and Harvard Pilgrim, then providers that accept Anthem, 99.99%.
Yeah, like I said, the only one I know of is Anthem. I never mentioned any other
No,
provider.
but I'm only saying because I've had experience with both providers in the state of New Hampshire and the same kind of situation, but in the commercial side of deciding which plan to go. And there is a bit of an administrative, right, hustle, because if you do switch from one provider to another, administratively, we would have, as a town, right, we would have to go through that. But with regards to doctors, 99.99%, those are two largest providers in the area. And I haven't heard from like people having to switch doctors.
Okay. think the only, I think this is, I wrap it up with, he had made a suggestion. The dental insurance obviously is nowhere near as expensive as the health insurance, but he did look at our dental, and right now, per the handbook, we pay 100% premium for the full-time employee, meaning for the single employee. For eligible dependents, they pay the difference. And we currently offer two plans. One is this option 5 flex that, what he said it was really old and really not many people take. I think we have 4 employees that sign up for this plan. It doesn't offer a lot. And then we offer 1C, which is, decent insurance, has 100% preventative, $1,000 a year max. Anyways, he stated that because we are currently offering 2 plans, we have to pay a higher rate than if we only offered 1 plan. And he said, you only have 4 employees enrolled in that very limited option 5 plan. He suggested that we just offer, like most towns, you offer 1 plan, the better plan, the 1C plan, because you get a reduction in rate by 9%. So kind of like if you look at these tables, really, I'll just focus on that. You can see that for the option 1C of the currently, for single, it's $54.36. If we only offered that 1 plan, it would come down to $49.42. And you can see how the employee costs actually are lower, okay? The only ones, obviously, the 4 people who were getting the really cheap, insurance. Now, if you wanted a family plan, instead of paying $53, you have to pay, $122, right? Like so. But he highly recommended that we kind of drop the really old.
Is that
option 5.
annually or is that monthly?
That's monthly. No mistakes. What a joke. You got me to laugh tonight, Paul. That's pretty good. And I think that's it. That's enough. Yeah. Again, I know it was a lot. I thank you for your patience and time allowing me to go through all of this. I felt like, we had done a lot of work on this and we wanted to share it with the committee and as well as the community. So that's cool. And I think, honestly, at that, I guess if there was any other subcommittees, but I haven't heard anything from anybody. You guys are good. Gabby's good. At this time, I'd open it up to just general public comments if somebody has something to say.
Jim Burlow, Scrabble Road, having listened here and online. I just got to say, including our select board members that are here tonight, Julie, what has occurred here tonight is a real, fresh breath of air. Things are being discussed now that were previously off limits. And I commend this board and my select board members and town employee. These are positive steps moving forward, and I commend you all for the steps that you've initially taken, what you're looking at, and as a taxpayer that despises what it costs me to live here in town, this is a fresh breath of air. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jim. And I mean, I'll just also add that, Jim, I'm blessed. This committee, being that I'm new, has been really supportive of me and working with me on this, as well as Paul, as chairman of the select board, has spoken with me many, many times and been very supportive. So I really do. I appreciate it, and I feel the same way, Jim.
Liz Faria, South Road. Letty, can you put up one of the budgets, like the police budget or something that doesn't have the change in the encumbrance to committed line? Okay, so
Jim, just so you know, Jim's doing this.
Jim is doing this?
Jim is the one, yes.
Oh, okay. What I wanted to,
Do you want to
This-
see like a current
I
budget?
want to
or
see
what do you mean?
current budget, yeah.
Why don't I think I'll show you my
That's not-
cemetery
that's-
budget that
so
I
the-
haven't given to Letty yet, but I'll show it to
The
you.
one that the town administrator would have put out.
I don't know what you mean.
I don't
but-
126, I just 125, the current budget.
Oh,
What you
yeah,
have left in the
that's-
budget, you know what I'm
yeah,
talking about?
Like this, but for the whole
Town?
town.
No, I just
Not
need
that-
one. I just need,
I understand.
that's fine.
It's not 26, it's 25 that she's looking for. Budgeted to actual? Is that what you're talking about?
I'm sorry, I don't know what you're asking for.
Okay, so maybe you can just look on it if you have a paper on your computer. In the current budget for 25, the, you know what I'm talking about? No, okay. So I talked to this a couple weeks ago with several people. In the current budget for 25, the first 4 lines, when I was talking about it, it's the beginning of August, I think. The first 4 lines were the budget amount that we voted on, right?
Yes.
For whatever department. I think police is the one I know the best, so that I was just using that one. So the first one is and it was 1.346 was the police budget. The second line was what year-to-date, which I thought that it should be spent year-to-date, so people understand it's what the YTD was. So the first line was budgeted, voted on. The second line was spent. The third line was what was left over. And the fourth line was percentage.
Yeah. I think that's what I have up. Is this what you mean, what I have up there, right? This is the expenditure report?
Yep, the columns. Are those
Got
the
it.
4? So it's 1.34 at the bottom.
Yes, way at the bottom,
Okay.
1.34. This was, again, this is July year-to-date. I don't have August.
Yeah,
yet,
I
but-
think that's all I had too. But in any case, the first 4 lines are budgeted, spent year-to-date, left over, and that percentage, which was, I was looking at it, there was like 43% left over.
Yes.
Then there's a line that you had encumbered, and encumbered at the school means something different than encumbered at the municipal level.
Correct.
So I wanted that line to be committed, not encumbered.
Okay.
So not encumbered for the next year, but committed. So if you were taking, say, the wage line, and nobody had left, and nobody had changed anything, that wage line would be all committed. So the next percentage would be 0 left over, 0%. And at least half of the lines are committed, are all committed. So it would show you, instead of 40% being left over, 43% being left over for the rest of the year, it would show you that maybe 8% was left over. So your wiggle room would be in that 8%, and even some of that would not have much wiggle room, because it would be something like fuel, which you don't know what it is, but you're still gonna have to spend it. So I think it gives the department heads and also the select board a much more accurate, I mean, they're all accurate, but it gives them much more of an idea of how much is really gonna be left at the end, and how much, I mean, we have to be very careful in certain lines, in certain budgets, others are gonna be fine, but I just think it's more helpful. So I'm just adding that first encumbrance line be committed.
So, yes, I don't disagree with you. We are gonna stop using this software hopefully very soon.
I was gonna say that we're
Will it be
limited.
still in the same budget? I mean, is it gonna be in the same budget cycle?
No, so Liz.
Like literally, hopefully in the next couple weeks.
The problem is that before this, somebody would have to do it manually. Like the system that they used, when I saw it, I almost had a heart attack, because it was a system from like 1970s. And I think that when I went to school, we used something like that to learn programming. Like,
So you're changing this when you don't have a town administrator or any of these building inspector, you're changing it now as well as trying to do the budget for next
hopefully.
year?
We've been working on this transition for years.
Okay.
They started the process in like March, April. We're at the final stages now. But
So will there be something like this in there so we can see what
Yes.
really we have left
in the new
over and
system, we will
not?
have more capabilities to do what you're saying and
Okay.
indicate what we actually have to play with.
But the
versus-
interim, everybody will be confused.
in the interim, we're stuck with the system we have.
Okay. Okay, thanks.
That's
Oh,
what we
no,
all want.
thank you, Liz. And again, I completely agree with you. I actually like that you're calling it committed, not encumbrance, because encumbrance has a completely different meaning legally and financially. And just so you know, if we on this specific expenditure report in July, because we don't have that committed value, it takes, well, Letty and I sat at my kitchen table for a couple of hours trying to figure out, okay, which one of these lines is a concern and which one is not. And you just all, and we came up with a list of, I don't know, 10 or 12 that we had to go to the town administrator for her to investigate, right? And so I completely agree with you that if we knew the committed, it gives you a much better feel for how you're doing budget-wise and whether there's a concern or not. So
Yeah,
if
I'm
the new
not-
system does it, this would be wonderful.
Yeah, the committed, though, would not be something that's iffy. The committed would be, like I said.
No, correct.
Wages.
Or like,
No, it's
or like software support where
Correct.
we know that we
You've signed
pay
a
it.
contract.
We've signed a contract.
It's once a year.
committed means it allows you to see, are you on track to are you going to be overexpending, or are you going to,
Yeah,
you
because
have
to
extra money
me-
left over?
to
That's
me,
what it
that
does.
Left over in July, you have 40% left over,
Yeah, it doesn't mean
43% sounds
anything.
okay,
yeah,
but that's, you're not even, you really don't.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely
And
correct.
as numbers people, that's exactly what we want to see. We
Yeah.
want that committed.
Well,
We're-
I
we're
just
on
think
the
it
same
makes it
page.
easier for people to go, maybe we'll
Right.
push the uniforms into next year, or
Right,
maybe we'll,
right. Yeah,
the things that are not contracts and not,
it's a better tool for the
yeah,
department
I mean,
heads.
it needs to be
Yeah.
done sometime soon.
Thanks, Liz.
Thank you for that comment. Anybody else? Yeah, let's pick a date.
What's the I might have missed this. What's the status of the communication to department heads and?
I sent out that email on the 20th of August.
Okay.
It was whatever right after our meeting and the select board meeting was.
Yep.
Just saying, hey, there's a new process, there's a new timeline, the timeline has moved up. And it sounds like Julie has started to get some responses from department heads. So as far as I know, the deadline is still the deadline, which is next Monday at 4 p.m.
Wonderful, thank you.
So do I turn it into you, the cemetery one? Because I know it said it came from town administrator. Is that you, or I'll just send it to you? How's that? Okay. Thank you. So the 15th is due. Do we want to meet the first week of October, or is that too soon? When do you think the select board will have something for us? The
That's a
15th?
good question for Paul.
For the select board? Yeah. Yeah. It's a big yeah, travel.
Let's see, let's wait and see. It sounds like Julie has a tentative schedule that she's gonna present to the board tomorrow, so maybe she can tell us
Okay.
First.
when it would make sense.
All right. Why don't we wait to hear?
It's right here. She got it.
Oh, sorry.
September, that's a Tuesday. Should we do this?
So historically, we would do it the Monday after. Just whichever ones go in front of the select board are the ones, right, Michelle? Historically, whatever the select board got on Tuesday, this budget committee would meet the next Monday. That is how it is done historically, but
Usually, yes.
And her date was?
September 30th. Which would make October 6th the first.
Dan has a meeting that night, just so we're all clear.
I am out of town. I'm actually out of town on the 6th.
Oh,
I'm not here.
yeah.
I'm out of town on the 6th. I cannot do the 6th. I'm sorry.
I mean, those are tiny ones. We could do more than that.
I mean,
Right.
those can.
What's-
So why don't we wait?
What are the next
Get to the
set
20th.
set of budget?
What are the next ones?
could do all that in one.
The 20th?
And if we can't, we can
The
push
20th?
a couple to the next one.
I might have a hard time getting here on the 20th, but I think I should be back by 5 or 6.
Do you want to just tentatively say the 20th?
Yeah. At 6?
Yeah, I was going to ask that question. I know we'd moved to 5 because it was more convenient for us, but as we get into the budget season where we might have more people from the community coming, does it make sense to go back to 6?
Sorry,
Oh, sorry.
October 20th?
Yes.
Are we gonna have enough time to review all the budgets?
What do you mean?
I think we usually start in September.
Well,
Well, if we don't have any to review,
No, I know,
unless.
if the budget committee is working with the select board, then I guess I'll wait.
We usually start in, September.
No, what I'm saying is historically, we've started looking at department budgets, even the smaller ones, like middle of September.
That is true.
And we would do a couple each week. And then even with the holidays, we would end around the middle of December, if we're lucky.
Well, we just might have to have
More meetings.
meetings.
Okay. No, nope, that's not what I'm saying. We're just,
I mean, honestly.
everything is new.
Those aren't gonna.
I was gonna say, I don't think that
Probably
makes
be
a
that
huge
much of a-
difference to lump them into one day versus meeting on the
No, I
13th
was
and then
gonna say
again on
that
the 20th.
Initial group of budgets probably isn't gonna be hugely debatable.
Yeah.
We don't know when the select board is gonna start, because the select board hasn't decided. We're gonna talk about it tomorrow.
Sorry, no, I was just saying, based on the proposed schedule that is gonna be discussed tomorrow, right?
Yes,
That was the idea of,
but I guess, yep, okay.
so if tomorrow you guys decide, as a select board decides that it's gonna start sooner, maybe we should just postpone the making decision and make decision.
I was just going to say, if you want to just wait till after your meeting
It might make
tomorrow, and then
sense
we can
because
kind of just
that
decide.
will give us, what does Michelle say?
I'd rather just set a day, and if we need to change it, we can change it, but
Okay,
personally,
September 29th.
September 29th.
Wouldn't that be the earliest possible?
yep. And are we doing it at 5:30, 6? What did we decide?
All those are fine for me, but I think, yeah, especially for some of the budgets where there might want to be public comment, it might be easier for more people who have input to get here for 6.
September 29th, 6 PM work?
Okay.
Okay.
I might have to obtain
Um,
care.
Thank you for that, Letty and Michelle. Thank you.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion, second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone, and everyone in the audience. I really appreciate you attending. Thank you so much.
I'm like, yeah.